A warm welcome to the Semantics meetup about ChatGPT and how we can use ChatGPT in the field of e-commerce. We are discussing with more than 150 guests about all the questions you may have about ChatGPT and Semantics. So be our guest and be part of the discussion. Thanks for being here.
I have to be honest, last Thursday when we received such a positive feedback, we were quite overwhelmed. We weren't expecting to have so many people who wanted to join us. But Heike just said it, of course, it is a very topical issue in e-commerce at the moment. And this is what we will be focusing on today. I try and limit the discussion a little bit and focus on certain questions just so we don't get lost. So commercial use is, of course, what most of our Semantics customers deal with. It's on the one hand about where they can use ChatGPT for their services, but we also want to look at the questions of certain businesses from their customers, for example, from their friends and family. So what is this? How does it work? We just want to give you an overview and some explanations. I would like to start with an introduction into the topic, and I think we will have enough questions from the audience to fill these 75 minutes. We haven't prepared any slides. It's really about your questions, your opinions, your fears as well, maybe also your fantasies about ChatGPT. So we want to discuss this. Just some important remarks to start the meeting. I think what we're seeing with ChatGPT is really a fantastic marketing approach. OpenAI and Microsoft are doing a great job here. And I think the first thing that we have to keep in mind is that ChatGPT really provides fantastic language generation. So looking at the quality of the text, the generation in general is really amazing. Many of the things that we were faced with years ago are now things that ChatGPT will also be facing. So people ask, can you maybe add some typos so we see more human? Heike, do you remember that? We had customers who wanted that too, that said, Saim, Heike, can't you add some typos into your AX text so Google won't notice that it was machine generated? And this is what people ask ChatGPT to do now too. So they want typos in their texts to make them seem more human-like. So what we have experienced happens again. People want to come off as human by making mistakes or introducing mistakes. So it's a fantastic language model. But one thing it is not, and I think this is a common misconception, it's not a knowledge model. Heike, what do you think? In the debate over the past couple of days, people think that GPT knows everything and always gives the right answer. And then they are outraged that information about a shellfish, for example, is not correct, or information on how dolphins live in the sea is not 100% accurate. I personally have to be, was surprised because this is a misconception, I think, a misunderstanding. People believe that the information that ChatGPT processes is always complete and correct, and that's wrong. And of course, something happens then, something that we have all read about in posts and in test reports. ChatGPT is lying, is what people say. I think this is an exaggeration. I wouldn't completely agree. But what it does is that it behaves like a human being. If I don't know something perfectly, I just beat around the bush and I say something vague that can't be 100% categorized. And then I end up with some sort of information that is not accurate or not 100% correct. And I think this is a misconception that we have to face and accept. And we have to tackle it. It's difficult to take knowledge based on the year of 2021 and build a pool that always provides correct answers. And it doesn't say that it's called knowledge GPT. It says it's ChatGPT. It's a language model. So I believe it will be essential to develop this basic understanding. This information comes from the year 2021, and not everything that's online is correct. So everything this machine can learn content-wise doesn't have to be correct. And especially when it comes to human beings, things get even more vague and interesting. I think Oliver is asking the first question. how will these texts generated via AI will affect SEO and content marketing? This is also interesting, thinking of duplicate content and authorship. Thank you very much, Oliver. That's a great question. I will just let you know what our experience is. We have about 300 customers at the moment that generate texts based on AX semantics. They are using our neural network that is sometimes even international. We have machine learning approaches and AI. And what we've been seeing is that if the content is valuable for users, and I think we have to agree, and we can all agree that content has to be valuable, then we can see that users need an answer, a sufficient answer. So if somebody wants to buy a product, they maybe want to find out information. So we have an information part in this content or this piece of a product description, for example, and then have to make sure that the customer understands the categories for the evaluation of this product. Let's take a rain jacket. I maybe have to explain to them how waterproof it really is. What does 10,000 millimeters mean in this context regarding the water column? And if this information matches the expectations, then we see how long people stay on the website and the behavior can be understood by Google, etc. And then we can say this content is valuable, and we provide the content that matches the interest. And then we have duplicate content or near duplicate content. That is actually more of a problem than just duplicate content, because of course ChatGPT can rewrite contents, and when I do data to text, I'm unique in certain spots because I can incorporate the values of my business, because I can tackle customers' interests different than my competitors and can maybe convince customers with my content, and my phrasing is different from other phrasings and sentences. And when it comes to authorship, this is, of course, really essential for today's meetup. We have had 300 registrations, and of course, we're also nervous and excited to see what will come next. But we also talked about authorship during lunch. So let's imagine that at some point in the near future, we will see schema.org making sure that we can certify checked facts. So we will have a defined scheme to mark checked facts. So if the manufacturer of a mobile phone, for example, will make sure or will be able to say that, okay, this fact has been checked, the screen of this mobile phone has this and that size. And then maybe we can incorporate that into these text generation systems. In this case, authorship is clear because it comes from the manufacturer, this piece of information. And in these cases, I think it can make sense to take certain pieces of information and really copy them 100% because they have been checked, because they come from the manufacturer directly. So I think authorship will be really relevant in the near future. Now, regarding the question of authorship in the future is what I'm talking about, of course. And this also will affect SEO, but maybe we can talk about this again later. Arne wanted to know for how long ChatGPT can actually not know the facts. Arne, I know you very well, and of course you're asking the right question here. How long will it take for ChatGPT to take the facts from the knowledge model and improve them significantly? So our current basis is 2021, and let's imagine, okay, we have this investment of $10 billion into ChatGPT by Microsoft, which interestingly enough is not an investment, but rather a credit without taking any shares. I have never seen this regarding startups. So they are just giving them a credit without becoming a shareholder. And of course, this will improve ChatGPT. And I think there's a lot of general knowledge that will become better. I was talking about shellfish earlier, or let's say blackbirds, for example, in German forests. I think the facts that ChatGPT will provide next year or the year after that will be a lot better than today. And this will help to depict knowledge better in ChatGPT. And when it comes to text generation, I had this anecdote. My nephew had to write a text about a certain type of sea animal and wrote this text with ChatGPT. And actually, their teacher was really excited and happy with the text. But what I'm wondering is into how many scientific areas ChatGPT can actually penetrate, because there are contents that are very manufacturer specific, brands, values, and my own brand. What can ChatGPT actually find regarding content to make sure that we have a knowledge AI model that can be trained well? This is, in my eyes, this is my opinion, the actual problem. So if it's weather, astrology, astronomy, biology, I think these are things that ChatGPT can learn. But when it gets really specific and it's about differentiation, when it's not about general remarks, general knowledge, I think ChatGPT will still be struggling. And now we are receiving a question. Anna, sorry, I skipped two of your questions, but we will have time to talk about them later. Lars asked a question: why should we use AX semantics, and when is ChatGPT the preferred choice? Lars, thank you for the question. We have prepared a paper, a one-pager, that I think we can insert into the chat now very elegantly, because we have shown you on this paper when ChatGPT is the preferred solution in our opinion, and when a data-to-text model is the better pick. We have prepared this for you, and it gives you a good overview, actually. We will also send this out via email to everyone who has registered for this meetup, but we will also provide you with a link just now so you can download it. It's also in English and German. No, sorry, I actually said download in German as well. But let's focus on the facts. Looking at ChatGPT, I see that they are looking into monolithically generated text. There's one task for a copywriter, so to speak. I want to generate one text about a certain animal, let's say. I want to have 10 landmarks for a landing page for London travels. I want to have a unique text on one specific topic. And then I sit down, I write my prompt. And for every one of you who doesn't know what a prompt is, the prompt is the task that you give ChatGPT, that you enter in a certain field. You say, I need an essay or a landing page. So please write me a landing page for landmarks in London with 10 landmarks. I absolutely need the Tower Bridge, Piccadilly Circus, and 2 or 3 more other aspects that I really care about. And then ChatGPT will generate this text, will phrase it completely. And because it's based on a broad spectrum of knowledge, it's about London. Most of the knowledge about the landmarks in London is older than 2021. So I can really expect that the text will be correct. I will probably have we'll edit the text again, we'll read through it again, and then decide that it's a good text and that I can use it and publish it.
So this is something AX can't do. If you try to enter a prompt for an individual text for a trip to London, will be disappointed, because what data to text do is it takes structured data and come up with some wording which can be reiterated 10 or 20,000 times. So our job is different. We do not write a singular text, but for data to text, it's all the models, so to speak, which have access to thousands of pieces of content. So that means I have 500 smartphones. I don't want to write a prompt for each individual one, but I want to have some generic text saying, I have a display which has 7 inches and 4 inches small, say, and a capacity of the processor of so and so much megahertz is good, and a storage facility or a camera with a certain resolution will provide good videos, or else it'll only be good for a snapshot. You know, this type of information. And this is exactly how we enter the data into this model, right? And write the text. The intention we pursue with data to text is different from ChatGPT. In ChatGPT, you want to have a singular text which will be issued once. I can make some changes here and there according to my own taste, but I will have a draft, which is fine for the beginning. And we also read it on the test. You know, people say I took it as a basis, and then I did some changes to it and refinement. And right after that, the text will be released or approved. This, of course, doesn't work in a scalable model. I mean, we have products which produce, like Klingel, for example, 60 million texts per month. I don't have the capacity to write all the prompts or check all the texts in 4 different languages on different platforms, where a T-shirt, a dress, etc., will be described, which either first for eBay or for Amazon or for Google optimized. That makes it rather hard, really, or if not impossible, to do that in ChatGPT. So that's the difference. And the most important distinction is in ChatGPT, I don't have any documentation whatsoever how the text was established, and I don't have any possibilities to interfere with the scalable text production. So this is the basic difference of the two possibilities. I have a brand tonality. I have a way of expressing my brand, my values in my e-commerce pages, for example. And I don't want it to be mixed up, you know, with Adidas wording or so. I mean, we have different values than Puma or you see, or Nike or what have you. So regarding the fabrics or the weight of a shoe or what you can use a shoe for, like for running shoes, so that a differentiation from the brand perspective is key. And I want to have control over it. And that's what we do. And I think that we will be having a hard time with ChatGPT because I don't think that it can replace the way we work. The distinctions there are really clear. Katerina is asking ChatGPT and integrate that into your engine for text inspiration, etc. I have a project with only little. I was looking for a solution there, and as far as I know, one of your competitors does ChatGPT integration. Well, sounds good. You can integrate any type of text. You just have to integrate it, right? So you're most cordially invited to get your inspiration with ChatGPT. Send it to us, and we'll incorporate it. I think I've just pointed out the differences actually between the use of ChatGPT for inspiration, right? If you want a one-off text, a wording that you haven't used before, you know, that's good. It might really be better than what I could ever paraphrase. Of course, we have our own style, you know, the way we set up text, etc. And if you want it to look a little different, of course you can use ChatGPT, and the integration of ChatGPT in other tools will definitely take place in the long run. Currently, we do not have a clear API link because ChatGPT doesn't make anything available. Did we have this API? We would be happy to. We'd be happy to give it a thought. I mean, why not generate a ChatGPT and integrate it into a semantics? We would actually detect the data fields, couple it and link it with the database, and with neural networks, we would then, for example, make the translation. That's possible, sure. Christian, good to have you here. I think your question is similar to Katerina's. I think we answered Katerina's questions. If anything is missing, please let me know. Timo, hi Timo, good to have you. Timo, IP is an important topic. Are we allowed to use the ChatGPT texts commercially? That's a highly interesting question, also in image creation, right? If I take millions of images as a foundation to create a new one out of it, then at least with German law, we are copyright doesn't, or IP doesn't play a role in according to German law. I think I would say we can use the ChatGPT text just like the pictures on a one-on-one basis without running it into any legal trouble. We already discussed this when we talked about generating images, because the question is, what does hallucinating mean? And I think it's easier to explain it with images. We had a meetup a couple of weeks ago together with Christiane Schech of Newsday, and we generated images that we wanted to use for the weather forecast, and we just wrote a prompt for that. A slight snowfall, Nymphenburg in Munich in the afternoon, for example. And then the sun was, it was an afternoon sun, you know, it was a little dizzy, a little snow and fog. And the picture looks fantastic at first glance. It's just the castle in Nymphenburg, everything looks great. You also see the snowfall, wonderful. But afterwards, we found out that for Schloss Nymphenburg, we had one story too many. I mean, there was an additional story, an additional level of the building. So that's a hallucination, right? The machine knows there are windows, like squares, and then generates Schloss Nymphenburg, looks like it, and then you count the windows and you see, oops, there are more stories than the castle actually has. And also the place where the sun was is not the same that we would normally have in the afternoon if you look at that part of the facade in the afternoon. So you see, that is what hallucination is. And we also have it sometimes in the text. The machine uses data, information, puts it together language-wise, and then here or there, there is a story more, or the sun is coming from the wrong side, you know, because you know, this type of part of the facade would rather be in the southeast. And then you realize all of a sudden, yes, we may use it for commercial reasons, but do I want it? Because the mistakes which are in it, or how generic can the production of such text be so that it doesn't fall back on me, you know, as a company. So in the editing department, we say we don't do snowfall, Schloss Nymphenburg, what we say, snowfall in a German city park. City park can be used, you know, it's not unique. There is no clear link to Munich, but if do I really want to show or do without would it be enough actually to show the city park of Munich? And the question is always, how specific shall it be? How close shall it be to me as a brand? How close shall it be to what I want to achieve? For outdoor purposes, for image generation, we also carried out a couple of experiments, and the perspectives were really dubious. It's strange. There were 4 to 5 young people. And the perspectives of the 4 to 5 people didn't fit the image. That didn't get together somehow. The camera position for the various persons differentiated a bit. And it was not one camera that took the pictures, but different perspectives. And then all of those were assembled and put together in a background picture. And that was really quite visible. I think that's a good example. It's not so much an IP problem, but rather the question: do I really want people to identify myself with it? You know, it's not the individual text. You know, if you have an individualized text, you can look at it again. But we are talking about 60 million texts per month, 10,000 texts per month in 5 different languages, with regular updating depending on the seasons of the year. And that will be rather difficult. The question is not about the IP. The question is that really what I want and what I intend at the end of the day? Does it really reflect my personal view of things, right? So knowledge base for ChatGPT, can it be improved? Thank you very much, Andreas. How can we improve the knowledge base? Well, Andreas, my answer is I don't know. improve it in a target-oriented manner. I don't know whether we can send data to ChatGPT. Sebastian asked a similar question, whether we can get and use schema.org in order to include and incorporate our information. How can we make sure that a text is legitimate and correct? Yeah, that's exactly what my answer to Andreas. I don't know. I'm not the right person to give you an answer to that. My vision would rather be that we would look into schema.org, and when somebody is the owner of an information, that he will also say he's or she's the owner. Like when Apple say, I'm the owner of the information for an iPhone 13, 14, 15, I might imagine there will be a possibility that this will be verified once. We have different or similar questions for Google. What they do with human authors. But when somebody says, I'm the owner of the technical database and data for an iPhone, for instance, that this will be acknowledged and recognized accordingly. Stefan, a strategic question. Thank you very much, Stefan. At the end of the day, we help ChatGPTs, all the ChatGPTs in the world, because to generate good content. That's right, because it uses the information we enter into the network, into the World Wide Web. And the question is, can I actually circumvent the dealers? So like Google with have all their own hotel information pages and much better than those of the dealers actually, because they just use the information, incorporate it, and set up their own selling platform. And they could then also copy, so to speak, our business. Well, I think I see the fear you have, but I don't think it's you should, because Google will need the dealers to place data to make money, to earn money, and alone by copying products, selling products, Google will destroy its own market. I think they're quite smart in what they do. They know how important partners are who are in competition with Google because they sell similar products, for instance, and then originally sold those things. And I don't think Google has an interest in taking over our businesses. I don't think so. I can't exclude it, that would be fortune telling, but I cannot imagine that that's their business model. I'm quite relaxed, I wouldn't fear that. I don't think Google would take over the businesses, because that would be against or would actually destroy their own income from advertisement. So I don't think that's a real danger. Next question is. Paraphrasing and pseudonymizing with AX Semantics. It's more work, somebody says. Is there a plan to develop plugins which will support the process? Well, of course, we further develop our products. We have introduced the automated translation tool, translation management to be more precise, sorry. So translation management as a tool, because many of our products are looking out for getting more international and want to have control over the contents. In fact, we had a synonymous network and already used that. And we were criticized in a way that the synonyms do not fit 100% what the brands wanted to achieve. So this control over the content is somehow weakened when we use a thesaurus or synonyms. A database of synonyms that interferes with the text, but not having the same knowledge as the customer has. I mean, I could imagine having tools who provide alternatives for wording, which the user has to accept, first of all. But without the knowledge and the know-how of our customers, we would never, ever interfere with the text. And that is exactly what ChatGPT do. They say, I'll write the text for you, you can take it, you can use it. And then afterwards, I have to look into individual text and say yes or no. And that's exactly what we don't want with AX Semantics. We don't, when we have 10,000 product texts, we don't want you to have to actually approve of each and individual text again. I mean, nobody will want to do that and read 10,000 pages yet over again. But what we know from our customers, they want to be sure that the things that which they predefined, the paraphrasing, the wording, the words used and the words not used, you want to be sure that we apply this and that we do this in a secure manner. Nike, for example, like to say mesh fabric. Okay. But Gießwein, for example, I don't want to use the word mesh. I say, okay, it's a mesh fabric. It has the same function, but I don't want to use it because our own brand name is, I don't know, knitted fabric, what have you. So I would like to make sure that my words are used and not any kind of synonym, which sounds similar, which means the same, but which actually doesn't focus on our brand wording anymore, because we don't want anybody to mix up our technology and our fabrics with the ones of our competitors, right? Katarina is saying there is already a ChatGPT 3 API. I'm not quite sure to what extent it works. The same is, and Philip says the same. Yes, it has an API, but for GPT-3 and ChatGPT, it's different. Anna says, gives the answer. Yes, ChatGPT or GPT-3 has an API, which I can use commercially. But again, the documentation is not open. I cannot make any amendments. I cannot influence the output for a product text. And that's also for our data to text models. I realized that a certain wording leads, for example, to a higher conversion in my text. So people buy more if I have this or that. And now when I want to elaborate on that and also convey it to other websites, my subsidiaries, and so on, I can do that by use of the API in a safe manner. And that's the best solution, actually. The question emerging from that is, are the possibilities ChatGPT offers sufficient? And I see and I believe that the monolithic text I can generate, which is good, the wording is fine and everything, my acknowledgement, but is that enough for scaling it in production with a artificial intelligence optimization and operation and so on? And is scalability possible? And that's what our customers want. And you have to decide that, will I go this way or that way, which is more convenient? And then you have to make your own decision which way you want to go. But those are two different paths. It's really hard with AX to come up with blogs, for example. When a furniture manufacturer says, oh, can I generate product text for a sofa, for example, and have variations from Marketplace and Otto, Amazon, and so on, and modify it slightly, making sure that all the conversions elements are adjusted for the ability to find it in the marketplaces and use it in the various marketplaces. And am I also able to write blogs about, say, how big rooms can be equipped with in a cozy manner, or make small rooms look bigger, for example? I'm convinced, and it's clear that writing blogs is the competence of ChatGPT. It's not ours. Maybe somebody wants to write a blog on putting furniture into a living room, a large living room, to make it look cozy. Maybe somebody wants to try it now. It's not possible with AX. We don't have the data. We don't have the database. We cannot implement it. And if we say, okay, for instance, I need a value-oriented text that fits our sofas, then I'm absolutely sure that the AX solution will be much better, and you will be more satisfied, and it's more scalable than, for example, with ChatGPT.
I'm seeing another question, Bastian. I have to read it while I'm talking, so please bear with me. I'm not absent, I just have to read. We are using ChatGPT, Bastian is saying, to generate SEO-texts in 4 different languages. As we've mentioned, AI doesn't know everything, but it can give you can enter information, so AI will know. So you can make AI say things. The result isn't too bad. I just wonder what Google thinks about that. So Bastian, you have found your solution. So congratulations, don't change anything. And if the result works for you, you're happy with it. That's great. You say you're doing it in 4 languages. I don't know how many products you have, how much you're implementing here, but if it's sufficient for you, you've done everything right, don't change anything. I would say that in your case, you found your solution. Philip is actually asking, he seems to be following the chat closely as well. Hi, Bastian, do you have a live example? Please feel free to share your examples that you've generated. And if it's enough for you, I'm happy for you. And we have a similar question by Yasmin. I am a SEO copywriter, and I'm not really convinced by ChatGPT yet regarding style and content, even if I edit the texts later. So she has had the same experience that we have heard from our customers who say, this doesn't match my brand. Of course, we have to look at who our customers are. We have customers who want to be convincing regarding their content and their technical knowledge. And sometimes these are big brands. You know, some of our customers, Otto, for example, Boch. So we have big clients, also like Mai, who do lingerie and underwear. And they're really passionate about their products. They put a lot of love for detail into their products, the design, the manufacturing process. And to take these products and say, I use a texting machine and can only control contents to a limited extent, well, they said they weren't happy with that. That wasn't enough for them. So I think this links back to Yasmin's question. Bastian says we work in adult entertainment and have to generate texts that have to be clean and not too explicit. This is why we looked into the language used. I don't have a live example, but we write something like, write 4 paragraphs on XYZ, give an example on how XYZ can be used, how it's stored, it's available in these colors, etc., and use clean language. Actually, Sebastian, 2 of our customers are selling sex toys, and one of them is also marketing pornography, and they are using this XXX language very intensely as well, and they have been happy with us for quite some time. But I would like to have a private discussion about your products. Maybe we can do this. Of course, we can't talk about explicit contents right now here in this setting, but I would like to hear more from you. In his prompt, actually, he added, use clean language, not explicit language. Yes, I got that. Thank you for pointing that out again, Heike. So it's adult entertainment, but the contents need to be clean. I'm just scrolling through the texts here. Philipp Schröder, an example, a blog entry with ChatGPT, machine writing, but there are differences. I think actually what you're mentioning here is exactly the same thing that we've mentioned. It's about translating data sources into automated language. So luckily, ChatGPT has understood a lot of what we want and has understood what we are doing. And it is a conversational model. This is also what I've been talking about. When we look at ChatGPT, we think of it as a knowledge model, and we focus not enough on the fact that the language of ChatGPT is amazing, even for these automatically generated texts. This is really intriguing, how beautiful ChatGPT can phrase, how well it works. So I think we've really shown this. ChatGPT also says that explicit language, sexually explicit language is not allowed. They have that in their terms and conditions. So, you know, there are limits. Some things are not allowed, but we don't have these limits at AX. If you want to put contents, explicit contents on your website that is only available to people who are 18 or older, we don't exclude explicit language. We say, use it, please. And I remember very funny scenes with our customer success team where they went over text, optimized them, and it was a really funny session. Heike, I think you remember this too. It was great fun to sit there in your office at 9 a.m. about the beginning of a relationship between a man and a woman, let's say, and just to look at the words used and the phrases. But we do this. Anna says that the raw material of ChatGPT is great, and it can take you very far. So it's not reliable for copywriting, but it's great for inspiration. That's exactly what I'm saying. I also agree with Katharina. You can make ChatGPT generate a text, and then if you need a scalable model, take this to data to text and say, okay, I have these variations. These are paragraphs I have never used. And then it was inspirational to you. And this is helpful. So you can use it. How long does the knowledge of ChatGPT date back? I don't actually know, Frank. I only know it's up to 2021. And I think everything that has been online or was online by then went into that tool. So just a brief side note. Sorry, this sounds like a school essay, says Yasmin, regarding the blog entry that was posted earlier. Yes, Yasmin. I don't want to criticize you or agree directly, but for some people it's enough. I have to be honest here. We don't have to save the world as copywriters, neither you nor me. And this is just what our job is about. So this is how we can categorize these texts. Some of our customers have these level 1 texts. They are really simply written. There are some features. They're not with a lot of written, not with a lot of love for detail. And then we have Maya, this underwear brand, where everybody really cares about the products, the manufacturing process, the design, and everybody joins in to really produce the best text for the customer. So they invested a lot of time and a lot of love. So I can only point to them or other partners who make sure that customers really understand how the thickness of bed sheets, for example, can make a difference. And they really look into which purchase criteria are relevant for a customer to make the decision that this product is right for them and that they will not have it sent back because they have the mattress that matches the linen, for example, the bed sheets. So these are just examples, and there will be gaps in the content, of course. I am convinced of that. But there's a difference. This is the difference we're talking about. What is enough for whom? And of course, anyone can use the solution that feels right for them and works for them. The great thing is that maybe it's enough for one person, but it's not enough for the other one, and they need another solution. So this is just my approach. Lick score, complicated text, this has nothing to do with it. I think this is not the right topic here. The lick score on how complicated something can be, how much simple language you want to have in there, etc. This is not what it's about. It's also about style and my own brand values. This is what I want to have in a text. So there's more than just a score that we can use. Let's say we take lick score or flash index to measure the quality of language and then define what my text has to sound like. For me, there's more elements that play into that. And yes, there are applications where these things are enough. And then there are other applications where other questions or details have to be present. And this is how we have to look at it. Yes, Bastian, you're right. It's just about readability for licks. And this is a really essential factor. Again, we also train our customers on text quality, and readability means short words, fewer syllables, not a lot of foreign terms. But I have a very specific example. We have a customer that sells notebooks, and they have 30% of replacement restriction with AX, with our tool, that they have passively. So they have passive content in product descriptions where I say this doesn't activate any purchase, but still they're one of the 3 biggest notebook sales group in Germany, because they are convinced, that's their theory, that these passive contents, this passive formulation creates a distance to the customer that makes them stand out as experts. Stylistically speaking, for us copywriters, actually, this is not great. This is a bit crappy. it's not ideal, let's say. It's not ideal to phrase sentences with a passive, but because it doesn't activate customers, but still they're one of the most successful notebook companies in Germany. So this creates a bigger conversion for them and fewer returns of products. So we can't say that readability is the be-all, end-all. This will not lead to the perfect text. It always depends on the values, the brand, and what I actually want to achieve, what I am able to do. Of course, this all influences my text team, my copywriters, and my text conception or the conception of my website, payment methods, etc. So there are a lot of aspects that influence all this. And I have to make sure that I can combine everything as much as possible. And if there's one solution that covers all these aspects, it's the perfect solution for me. Timo just said that politicians can now have their people or use ChatGPT to write speeches that are easier to understand. That's a great idea. Do we have politicalconsultant.com online yet? I think that would be a great business model. Explain it to a 5-year-old. Yes, Anne, absolutely, but it's about terminology again. I agree. We can look at style, we can make sure that the texts have a certain form and shape, but have I actually used my SEO words that I need for my ranking, because I say that's really important to us here to use these specific terms. And are the texts actually correct for me? How do I best tell my CEOs that we need to use AX and not ChatGPT because they think that ChatGPT provides perfect text? Dominic, change your employer. No, I'm just kidding. I think I have provided you with the best arguments. But are you using the right SEO keywords? Is it brand specific enough? If it's enough for your CEOs, for your managers to have texts that, well, it's difficult to separate this, but that the texts are not influenced as much, or that they can only be improved with a lot of effort, that API for GPT exists, but not for ChatGPT. So using GPT-3 with an API, that you can scale this in several languages while still controlling the content, that this is difficult with GPT. I think these are the arguments, and if not, we posted these links where you can download documents where we compare ChatGPT and AX Semantics to show you which one is better in which context. I would recommend that you download this document, have a look, and can actually take a lot of arguments out of this to talk to your managers on why they have to use one or the other. There's no reason not to use ChatGPT. It can be the right solution. I just want to say this again. Yes, and if I might add, there's also differences in the process, and this is why AX Semantics is making text generation scalable and ChatGPT is not doing it. And that's support. AX Semantics means that you have an initial effort for texting or copywriting, but we have Heike, that's interesting because Philip is entering something into the chat here. With a revision or editing of a text, I can't develop a SEO text with ChatGPT that costs less than 10 euros. And that's right. Do I have a guarantee that I will receive a good text? If I need 10,000 texts, how much time does it take to edit these texts, to check the content? And will this actually be cheaper in the long run? And it's not just about the initial check whether the text is correct, but also adapting texts. We also have to do that to create new contents, or if there's new information on the product. AX Semantics makes it possible to roll this out for 10,000 texts with just a few steps. And with ChatGPT, I have to start from scratch and generate new texts. Otherwise, I don't know how else we could imagine this process. But this is a fundamental difference looking at use cases, and that you should bear in mind. Philip, this is also interesting. You said this earlier. I don't know if you can still see it. For product descriptions, of course, there's also legal aspects. The data should be correct. For example, when it comes to voltage or the length of an object. I agree 100%. Of course, it can happen that ChatGPT takes technical descriptions, text specs for a Sony camera and it takes these specs from a Nikon camera. So this can happen. They may attribute characteristics or features from one product to another. And this brings us into this realm of hallucinations again, thinking back to my example earlier with the facade of the castle. So monolithic texts, block entries, okay, but scalable models that have been a certain legal framework, conversion rate, etc. These are cases where we have strong arguments for certain language models, and I think this really helps us to have a better idea on the perfect choice. It's now 2 minutes to 3. I think we are, oh, we're no longer receiving any questions. There are still 130 people online with us. Okay, I was just reading that question by Bastian. He said that ChatGPT is suitable if you don't have any data about the product. That is correct. He's talking about lingerie. This is what it's about for Bastian. Now we know. So when I was talking about my underwear and the great product data from the manufacturer, an idea about values and contents, and now we have underwear, lingerie without any data on the product. Well, you're writing that our copywriters hate it when they have to write the same text thousands of times. Yes, of course. And we have other clients where people also, copywriters, have to write similar texts hundreds of times. And this is something that you have also just typed into the chat. What do you want me to write? It's black, it's made of cotton, and it looks nice. Yes, and this is what we're talking about. I need 40,000 texts like this, and not just 1,000 or 4,000. In this case, it's clear that it's difficult to do this with just one copywriter, and you need a machine solution. But again, I'm open looking at the results. Just try it out, find out what works best for you, which kind of text do you want, what are your needs that you have to cover, and then you will find your solution. And I tried and show you where the differences are in our perspective, and I'm looking forward to our Germany tour and talking to you. I think we have shared the landing page, so please sign up, talk to us.
Und bei uns sein wird, der eine Studie gemacht hat, was bei seinen Studenten
Professor Gensch made a study of what's better, handwritten text or machine written text, with really very surprising results. Professor Gensch is sick, unfortunately, but we will have a second round of ChatGPT. And in the next meetup, we will talk about the scientific aspects with him, Professor Gensch, from various perspectives, from the perspective of psychology, for example. What happens what with us when we read machine-generated text? How will all that develop? And you are also invited. Tour of Germany in the next meetup in 2 weeks. And all I can say for now is thank you for joining us today. Thank you to Simultando, the interpreters, for making available the English translation. Thanks to the background team, Lisa and Heike today. Thanks for organizing the meetup. And I may say, please stay healthy, stay tuned. Also, we'll meet again in a fortnight. Thank you, everybody, for being here. And thank you also for your feedback. A lot of people are expressing their thanks to us. So, and from my side also, thanks to all of you. And we'll see each other again in 2 weeks or in the German tour. Thank you very much and goodbye.
A few minutes ago, our discussion with 150 guests ended in the AX Semantics meetup about ChatGPT and AX Semantics. First of all, I've learned that there is no wrong or right in using ChatGPT or AX Semantics. There's just the answer. It's a perfect fit for you. So find in that discussion the answer, which of those models is the perfect one for you. The second aspect I've learned today is that if we discuss about ChatGPT, there's a big misunderstanding. A lot of us think that ChatGPT is a knowledge model, but to be honest, it's a language model and therefore it works really good. So join our discussion and learn what we discussed today. And last but not least, what I've seen today is 150 people discussed today with me and all the other guests about ChatGPT, about generative AI, and this is a lot. So a lot of people do have the same questions than you. So join us, be part of it, and learn with us.